The Nuremberg Laws, German, Nürnberger Gesetze, were anti-Semitic and racist laws that were enacted in Nazi Germany on September 15, 1935, at a special meeting of the Reichstag convened during the annual Nuremberg Rally of the Nazi Party. The two laws were the law for the protection of German blood and German honor, which forbade marriages and extramarital intercourse between Jews and Germans and the employment of German females under 45 in Jewish households, and the Reich Citizenship Law, which declared that only those of German or related blood were eligible to be Reich citizens. The remainder were classed as state subjects without any citizenship rights. A supplementary decree outlining the definition of who was Jewish was passed on 14 November, and the Reich Citizenship Law officially came into force on that date. The laws were expanded on November 26, 1935 to include Romani and Black people. This supplementary decree defined Romanis as enemies of the race-based state, the same category as Jews. Out of foreign policy concerns, prosecutions under the two laws did not commence until after the 1936 Summer Olympics, held in Berlin. After Hitler rose to power in 1933, the Nazis began to implement anti-Semitic policies, which included the formation of a Volksgemeinschaft, people's community, based on race. Chancellor and Führer, leader, Adolf Hitler declared a national boycott of Jewish businesses on April 1, 1933, and the law for the restoration of the professional civil service, passed on 7 April, excluded the so-called non-Aryans from the legal profession, the civil service, and from teaching in secondary schools and universities. Books considered un-German, including those by Jewish authors, were destroyed in a nationwide book burning on 10 May. Jewish citizens were harassed and subjected to violent attacks. They were actively suppressed, stripped of their citizenship and civil rights, and eventually completely removed from German society. The Nuremberg Laws had a crippling economic and social impact on the Jewish community. Persons convicted of violating the marriage laws were imprisoned, and, subsequent to March 8, 1938, upon completing their sentences were rearrested by the Gestapo and sent to Nazi concentration camps. Non-Jews gradually stopped socializing with Jews or shopping in Jewish-owned stores, many of which closed due to a lack of customers. As Jews were no longer permitted to work in the civil service or government-regulated professions such as medicine and education, many middle-class business owners and professionals were forced to take menial employment. Emigration was problematic, as Jews were required to remit up to 90% of their wealth as a tax upon leaving the country. By 1938 it was almost impossible for potential Jewish emigrants to find a country willing to take them. Mass deportation schemes such as the Madagascar Plan proved to be impossible for the Nazis to carry out, and starting in mid-1941, the German government started mass exterminations of the Jews of Europe. Legislation in other countries. Decree of Tsar Boris III of Bulgaria for approval of the law for protection of the nation. Some of the other Axis powers passed their own versions of the Nuremberg Laws. In 1938, Fascist Italy passed the Italian Racial Laws and Manifesto of Race, which stripped Jews of their citizenship and forbade sexual relations and marriages between Jewish and non-Jewish Italians. Hungary passed laws on May 28, 1938, and May 5, 1939 banning Jews from various professions. A third law, added in August 1941, defined Jews as anyone with at least 2 Jewish grandparents, and forbade sexual relations or marriages between Jews and non-Jews. In 1940 the ruling Iron Guard in Romania passed the law defining the legal status of Romanian Jews. In 1941 the Codex Judaicus was enacted in Slovakia. In 1941 Bulgaria passed the law for protection of the nation. In 1941, the Ustaše in Croatia passed legislation defining who was a Jew and restricting contact with them. While the Empire of Japan did not draft or pass any legislation, they were pressured by the German government to place Singaporean Jews and Indonesian Jews in internment camps during the Japanese occupation of the Dutch East Indies and Singapore. Existing copies. An original typescript of the laws signed by Hitler was found by the U.S. Army's Counterintelligence Corps in 1945. It ended up in the possession of General George S. Patton, who kept it, in violation of orders that such finds should be turned over to the government. During a visit to Los Angeles in 1945, he handed it over to the Huntington Library, where it was stored in a bomb-proof vault. The library revealed the existence of the document in 1999, and sent it on permanent loan to the Skirball Cultural Center, which placed it on public display. The document was transferred to the National Archives and Records Administration in Washington in August 2010.